Hey guys, welcome back. So this video is just a quick one. I'm currently preparing for a new video and I had to use my my 18650 charger, which I can also use to measure battery capacitance, and it's not really good to see. Let me just adjust the light. Here's the meter. I showed you these before. They are quite good, but I ran into a problem. So how it's set up right now is I have my charger over here. I also had to add another heatsink on these bottom ICs as they also get hot, which I just noticed, because the problem is right now, let me just grab the thermometer. My room temperature is almost 32 degrees Celsius, and because of the heat I also am using a fan with just some thick wire on top, so this does not overheat, because the cells also get quite warm today. So yeah, a small problem with heat, but the biggest problem is this meter over here. Now, you may already see it, it just changes brightness suddenly, and it does that all the time as soon as I hit like 3.1 volt, and that's the problem. The meter itself is directly powered from the power supply, and what happens is, when this is connected to my electronics load over here, when the electronics load discharges the cell as intended, it does not stop discharging the cell. So essentially the BMS stops it because it's too low of a voltage. Then it reconnects after a few seconds. The load again sucks out some energy, and that does this all the time if I'm not right beside it. And if it does that, well, nothing happens to the cell, nothing happens to the BMS or something, but the meter over here loses its data. So I don't know how much capacitance the cells have, and I have to redo the test all the time. So what I have to do is disconnect the power supply for the meter itself and make an external power source, so that if the cell hits this low state, and even if the BMS again turns on, it doesn't lose the data. It constantly will then hopefully store the data until I'm ready to read what it says. Because I had to redo this like now 3 times, as I was not quick enough and not checking enough when it hits these low voltages. And right now I'm preparing for a video in which I try to make a 3S2P battery with one of these small USB ports for 5.2 volt, 3 amp, with an input voltage of 6 to 26 volt DC. I have a small 3S BMS. The whole project is intended as like a carry around, like this one, power bank, and I'm currently rating the cells, but as it turns out, my cells, they are not really high capacitance. These red ones that I salvaged are 900 milliamp hours, which is fine because that's what they are rated for. These green ones, the ones that I salvaged in my last video, are 1300 milliamp hours, and I'm currently testing other somewhat older green cells that I already had to see what capacitance they have, because if you try to make a battery pack, the capacitance should match, unless you can also mix and match capacitance, but the problem is that one cell will then be loaded with a higher current than the other one. Now, for this situation that might be fine, but I still would like to have the most capacitance possible for a carry around power bank. And here's also another project that I finished. Well, this was already finished. There was a single power supply inside, but now there are 2 power supplies inside. We have the old one on the left and the new one on the right. We have 2 independent power supplies in one package, and I also have my DC, like what my temperature controlled fan is also installed, and now this runs perfectly. There's a 2-channel power supply that can be connected in parallel and series with no problem. And yeah, so this is one thing that I have to do, and that might be interesting, especially considering that these meters, they are quite good. I really like them, and I'm also currently thinking about buying another like 4 of these, because right now I'm only able to discharge 1 cell at a time, and well, that's not really efficient. It took me like, I don't know, 5 hours by now just to measure, well, okay, 6 measurements, but so this is the 6th measurement, but 3 times again I made a mistake of not observing it at this low state, and you can see just turns on, turns off, turns on, turns off, and at some point if it cuts out, the BMS cuts out and it comes back on, it seems like when the load again sucks out some juice, it just loses the data. So we have to observe this closely as long as there is no external power supply, and that's a modification that I'll make in another video. So this was just a quick one to also show you that I'm right now in the process of making new videos. There will be new videos, but it just takes me some time. Have to finish a bit of stuff. And yeah, so I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you soon with a new project.